channel. It's Vlogmas day 4. I don't know what I'm gonna do when there's like 25, you know, like, or, you know, double digits, what I'm gonna do with my fingers. Like, I guess like 1-5 for 15, 1-6, like, I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get there. I can't be the only one who is influenced by TikTok. I was literally scrolling and I saw a recipe on how to make caramels and I immediately wrote it down on the spare envelope that I had in my office. I was like, yes. And I think we have all the ingredients. So let's make some caramel. Growing up, I was in charge of the sugar cookies. I was not in charge of the caramel. Okay, that was my sister's job. Some years the caramel was better than others. I remember one time it being so sticky, we were like pulling the little like wax paper off of it, and sometimes the wax paper would be like so stuck to it. And then I'd eat a little bit of wax paper because I just got so tired of like trying to tear it apart. But I know that it's harder than it looks. You have to make sure that your sugar is hot enough. Between like a specific, oh, I wrote it down. According to TikTok, it should be around a 235 to 245 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't have a candy thermometer, I have a meat thermometer. So that's what we're gonna use today. But we're starting out with 1 cup of butter melted. All right, to get started, we're gonna put a cup of butter into the saucepan, just like that. Maybe. Okay, and we're gonna start to melt that. Butter is melting, kinda. We're gonna wait for that to melt. So according to the stay-at-home chef, because that's where I got the recipe from, she did mention to butter your pan before melting your butter, and she used like the little stick butter, like spread it on her pan and then put it in the pot. I did not do that. So we're gonna have to get another stick of butter, kind of mangle it around, and prep our pan for the caramels to go into it. Good thing I have a partial butter right here, and I'm gonna smear it all over to make sure that your caramels don't stick. I am gonna try and wrap the caramels so that we can have them for like multiple days. It is kind of noisy. I'm gonna put it on little towel. There we go. Okay, so I am gonna try to wrap the caramels because I want to be able to put them in this little sled. We don't often have like candy around our house, but I do want to like store the caramels, put it in here, so use it kind of as decor, but also like a little snack that people can have. And my dad's elf on the shelf is kind of lonely, so to sprinkle some caramels in here will help him stand up and just add some more decor to the house, honestly. And not just any decor, but functional decor. Because if you just have decor in your house that's not functional, that is clutter. So this is properly greased up. I did completely like mangle this butter, but what can I say? I hope honestly this pan is not too big, but that looks pretty good. Our butter is melting nicely, so I'll give it a couple more minutes before I add the other ingredients, but it's pretty boring, honestly. It's just melting. Growing up, we would have an entire day focused around making Christmas snacks. We would make like little containers, give it to our neighbors, our family, and I always had sugar cookies. And I also remember making the peanut butter cookies with the Hershey's Kiss on it. My other sister did the Christmas wreaths where it was like the cornflake cereal. You dyed it green with marshmallows, and then you put like red hot candies in the center. We made all the snacks, and with 5 kids in the house, we all had our specific thing that we made, but mine was never caramel. Now that my butter is melted, I am gonna add 14 ounces of sweetened condensed milk, and just pour this right in there. I have seen videos where people will take sweetened condensed milk and keep it in the can, but then they will put it in a crock pot full of water and put it on low for like multiple hours, and it turns into caramel. Never done that before, don't know if it works. but I do think that it would be cool if you wanted to. So we're just gonna get this poured in. I feel like brown sugar always just gets like so compacted. I always give it a little bit of a fluff before I scoop it in because I feel like it's more accurate. If I was a better baker, I would measure it. I'm not that good of a baker, but I am just gonna try my best. So that's 1 cup. 2 cups of brown sugar. And then I'm gonna pour in this entire bottle of corn syrup. That looks delightful. I do know that caramel is super easy to burn, so I am just slowly bringing it to a simmer to try and get it close to the 335 to 345. Currently it's at 165, so if this was pork it would be cooked, but since it's candy it's not. So we're gonna continue to simmer. Caramel is really easy to burn, so I'm just like slowly bringing it to a boil, continuously stirring, making sure that nothing gets stuck to the bottom because sugar burns so quickly, like instant. If you don't have a thermometer, they say if you take cold water and fill up a glass, that if the caramel will form a ball. Okay, so it's reading that it's 226 right now, which we just need a little bit more. I'm gonna increase the temperature to make sure that it gets within the 235 to 245. We are about 10 degrees from what we need. Okay, it did say that it reached 235, so we're gonna take a drop and put it into the water. So I'm just gonna take a little with my spoon and I'm gonna drop it in. I should have done a shorter glass, but it does look like it has formed into the proper texture. Let me see if I can spoon it out. I spooned out that little bit and it feels like the perfect consistency of caramel, so we're gonna go ahead and pour it. Let's pour the caramel. Okay, that looks wild. I'm gonna push down the edges so it's more of a square. As I'm sitting here, I can feel the heat just like rolling off of this caramel, but it's pretty easy to make. Like, it didn't take us that much time. I would definitely have some sort of thermometer because there was times where it was at a rolling boil and I was thinking it's got to be at the time. It has to be 235. It might even be like 300 degrees. And when I pulled out the thermometer, it was quite lower. It was only like 200. So I do think it's important to try and have some sort of thermometer to watch it because I don't think it would have set right if I didn't have the thermometer. All in all, caramel is pretty easy. I mean, it's simple ingredients. You just have to make sure it doesn't burn and make sure it gets up to temperature. I'm gonna let it cool for 30 minutes or so before I cut into it. But before I let it cool, I'm gonna put sea salt on half of it. I'm not sure if you're supposed to do this before or after it completely cools. I want to make sure that my sea salt will actually stick to the caramels. So I am gonna go ahead and spread it on half of it. I like a sweet and salty. See, even now, like as I put it on, I can see it kind of bouncing off. So I'm hopeful that the heat will kind of melt the salt a little bit and it will stick to it. Half of it looks like it has snow or ice on it and the other half does not. It's very aesthetic. It's very pretty with the salt on it. It almost makes me want to like put it on at all. One thing I love about baking during the holidays is you can share it with people. That's why I want to wrap this in individual pieces. So if someone comes over, want a little sweet treat, they can grab one of these like wraps. I think it was a good idea to make sure that I added this before it cooled too much because it is starting to like sink into the caramel, which is perfect. But I think that's enough. Half of it has the sea salt on it and then half of it has no sea salt on it. I'm gonna wait for this to cool about 30 minutes or so so that it sets up properly and doesn't burn my fingers. So I will see you in 30 minutes. I did end up popping these in the fridge so that they would cool down faster and they're cooled down. Like it definitely, they're chilled. They say hindsight is 20/20. I should have probably put some sort of liner in here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have some troubles actually getting the caramels out. There's no such thing as too much butter when it comes to caramel. That was the only reason I was able to get this out, was because I had buttered it so well. Do not skimp on the butter when you're about to lay it out, because that was literally the only way I was able to get this caramel out. Also let it cool naturally. Don't put it in the fridge, it will, or the freezer. It will get way too cold and you won't be able to pry it out. But I pried it out, so we're gonna chop it up. We're gonna put it in cute little wraps. The spatula really helped in the entire ordeal. Now I'm just gonna see if I can cut this evenly. I don't have any candy wrappers. I'm just gonna use parchment paper and hopefully it will stick to it. So I've got a little bit of parchment paper. I'm gonna cut and wrap in the parchment paper. These might be like pretty big caramels, but they seem about proper size to me. But yeah, I'm just gonna continue to chop. The caramels almost look like little mini packages, and I honestly think this is the best idea. So we have our little Elf on the Shelf and all of the little Christmas caramels. It was so fun making these. I just think that not only is it a functional aesthetic and decoration, but it's also really, really pretty. This one did not get wrapped that well. And that wraps up for Vlogmas day number 4. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and comment on this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in Vlogmas day number 5. Bye.